Welcome, everyone. It's so good for everyone to join us. I want to remind everyone to request your absentee ballot at votefromabroad.org. It's super fast, super easy, and voting this year is so important. And we're going to go over one of the many reasons why it's so important with our guest. Anne, would you like to introduce Carol?
Okay, thanks, Angela. Well, I'm Ann Hesse, and I lead the Democrats Abroad Global Women's Caucus. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you who have joined this call from around the world. I'd also like to welcome you on behalf of our Women's Caucus to this important update from Floridians Protecting Freedom. Co-hosting today is Florida activist and DA leader Carol Moore, who will introduce our very special guest. Carol has held many leadership positions with Democrats Abroad and founded the DA UK Women's Caucus. Currently, she co-chairs our DA Florida State Outreach Team and serves on the GWC Steering Committee. She's also active with the Florida Democratic Party stateside when she's there. So I'll hand off to Carol now, and she can introduce our very special guest. Carol?
And thanks very, very much. It is a real pleasure to introduce Lauren today in their current role as campaign director for Yes on 4. We met last November at a Florida fundraiser when Lauren was in the final stages of leading the successful abortion petition campaign, Floridians Protecting Freedom. Lauren has been working on abortion access, in Florida since 2012. She's worked at Planned Parenthood and other reproductive access organizations. In 2017, Lauren received a master's degree, summa cum laude, at Vanderbilt University and wrote their master's thesis on trends in anti-abortion legislation. They've held leadership roles over a decade with the experience of working in electoral, legislative, and advocacy fights for abortion access. Lauren, we look forward to hearing about the state of the campaign and what we can do to succeed in mobilizing Florida voters to vote yes on Amendment 4. Over to you.
Thanks for having me today. And thank you so much for my colleagues, Nicole and Bryce, who are on this call today. We're really lucky. I think we're going to talk to you about how our team has grown in the past few months. But Bryce has been a long time on this campaign. She's been in it with me since August of last year. There was a time in phase 1 where it was 2 employees on this campaign, so I always have to shout her out. It looks like Nicole is pulling our slides up, so I will go ahead and just tell you a little bit about our organization as Nicole pulls those slides. We started doing the research into a ballot initiative in 2022. We didn't publicly announce until 2023, but with the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we read the writing on the wall. And at the same time here in Florida, 15-week abortion ban was passed. This was the most restrictive legislation that actually had come into Florida. So between those two factors, we knew that a near total or total abortion ban was right around the corner, and we knew that our only pathway to change the landscape was to pass a ballot initiative. Folks may not realize, but we're actually the only state in the Southeast who has a citizens referred ballot initiative process that can pass abortion referendums. So this is the one shot that the South has in order to make sure that there's constitutionally protected access to care. And if we go to the next slide, I'll tell you a little bit more about who we are. So we started as a coalition of organizations who teamed up together in order to do the research, in order to raise the funds, and in order to collect the petitions necessary to get on the ballot. And now we're the coalition that's working to deliver the win in November. We have organizations like Planned Parenthood of Florida, ACLU of Florida, Florida Rising, Florida Women's Freedom Coalition, SEIU 1199, and the Voices of Florida Fund, formerly Women's Voices, who came together with the singular goal to restore abortion rights in our state. We are also endorsed by over 200 local and statewide and national organizations and over 100 healthcare professionals who have endorsed this campaign. So a main goal for us, abortion is healthcare, and we don't have our politicians involved in other forms of healthcare. This has become a highly politicized conversation, and for many people, it is more of a political token than it is access to healthcare. The thing that we've been saying since the beginning of this campaign is no one goes to the doctor's office and checks in with their voter registration card. People, normal everyday people, don't think of this as a political issue; they think of it as a personal issue. And so our goal is to make sure that we remove politicians in general from this form of care, so that this conversation is off the table. And I want people to think about what it would mean if we can pass this in Florida at a 60% threshold, which means that we need Democrats, Independents, and Republicans. We can carry one of the strongest messages possible to politicians across this nation to say that it's time to stop intervening with decisions around abortion. Those should be left to individuals, their family, and their doctor. So talking a little bit about our quote-unquote 6-week ban, I just want to talk to folks about how we're framing this, because it's really important to note that when we talk about 6 weeks, people don't actually know what that means. So a 6-week abortion ban means 6 weeks post your last menstrual period. So you could be not at all pregnant and be starting the clock at 6 weeks last menstrual period today. This is before many people even realize they're pregnant. So the average amount of time that somebody realizes they're pregnant is 5 weeks and 5 days. That's when most women find out, 5 weeks and 5 days. And for context, in order to start your abortion process in the state of Florida, you have to be in the doctor's office for your 24-hour waiting period at 5 weeks and 6 days. That means for the average Floridian, they have about 24 hours to lock down their appointment. That is an unbelievable hurdle. And that is what everyone who's trying to access care is trying to do right now. There are stories about people who have miscarriages right now who aren't able to access miscarriage management because their private OB-GYNs are too afraid to give it to them. There are women who are coming into health centers and their pregnancy doesn't even show up on an ultrasound, so they can't access care. There are all kinds of stories that we're hearing. And it's very common also to have somebody who thinks that they're under that 6-week threshold, comes into health center and finds out that their only option for care is to travel to another state. So when we talk about this ban, we want to make it clear that it is a near total ban before many women realize they are pregnant and with no real exemptions for health of the mother or for rape. So I want to ask folks in the chat, prior to our ban that was implemented on May 1st, I'm curious if you can tell me where you think that Florida used to rank on list of overall abortions provided. So from 50 to number 1. 1, Angela says, 12, Scott says, 7. Anyway, I guess it's 10, 8, 30. We're getting everything. Florida was consistently the number 2 or number 3 provider based on the year. So, and that is for the entirety of the nation. Texas actually used to be the number 2 provider until their near total ban went into effect, and then their total ban went into effect. They used to see about 115,000 patients a year. We used to see about 84,000 patients a year. The vast majority of Florida's patients come from Florida. So there's this idea that we see a ton of patients from out of state. That's actually not the problem that's created by banning abortion in Florida. We do see patients from out of state, but it is less than 10% of our overall patient base. If you look at this map right here, I want you to think about the unique geography of Florida and what it means for our patients. So we are surrounded predominantly by water. There's no way south, east, or west to get out of the state and into another state that has different laws. And then our northern border, we are surrounded by states that all have either a near total abortion ban or a total abortion ban in effect. So there are only 2 states within the entirety of our region that not only Floridians, but all other Southerners can go to right now to access care after 6 weeks. And that is North Carolina and Virginia. Again, before the near total ban went into effect, we saw about 84,000 patients annually. Virginia and North Carolina combined see less than 48,000 patients. There is no way to jam 84,000 more patients into North Carolina and Virginia, which means that the vast majority of Floridians who are seeking care have to find care out of region. So we think about places like Illinois, New York, and DC may actually be the closest access point for Floridians. A recent article came out about how a New York abortion fund saw an increase of 460% patients from Florida after the ban went into effect. When care was banned here, the fabric of abortion access in the entirety of the Southeast, and really nationally, if you consider what it means to lose that many visits, is dismantling. It is not easy to just stand up new providers, to just stand up new health centers, to just make more appointments available. It is not replicable. You can't just automatically regain 84,000 patients. And I want you to think about what it means to be a single working mother in Miami-Dade who is asked now to travel out of state as far as places like Illinois and New York to access care. That may not be possible. The average cost for accessing care now for a Floridian who has to travel out of state is between $3,000 and $4,000. That is make or break money for people. That is multiple months of rent for people. So the idea that you can easily just transfer this care to a different area is an incredibly privileged one, and it's not the framework that Floridians should be operating under. I want to also note, when you ask experts on this subject at places like Planned Parenthood how long it will be until we get a durable federal protection back for abortion, in a best case scenario, in a scenario where a pro-reproductive healthcare trifecta is maintained, we are looking at a 30-year time period before these experts guess that we will get access to care back at a federal durable level. That means that a young woman who is registering to vote today will be entering menopause before there's a durable federal protection at or above the level of Roe. We aren't going to get another bite at this apple in Florida. We know that when progressive initiatives get further and further, restrictive powers fight back in order to make sure that citizens' voices aren't heard. We also know that it takes an incredible amount of resources to do this, and the fact that we've gotten it this far has been because people deeply care about Florida patients. But we need to mobilize this opportunity right now in order to win care back, not only for Florida, but the entirety of the Southeast. We have to do this year. We will see devastation if we can't get this initiative past the 60% threshold. Providers have talked to us about the fact that they don't know if they'll be able to keep their doors open for a year while they wait for this initiative to go into effect, let alone waiting for decades in order to provide care. We will lose our fabric of access here. We are already seeing providers leaving the state of Florida. So I know of 2 OB-GYNs who have left the state because they can't provide care to their patients that they feel is quality. One of them was an abortion provider who also worked at a veterans hospital. So not only did we lose an abortion provider, we lost somebody who was delivering babies for veterans. Another patient who offers specialized care specifically for women who are going through some of the most tragic circumstances, women who find out much later in pregnancy that their pregnancy is not viable or that they have a health condition that will not allow them to give birth. This woman has left the state because she can't provide that quality of care to her patients here. Research has shown that residents are less likely to come to states with abortion bans in effect. Florida is already in an OB-GYN shortage, and providers fear criminalization that gets in the way of them being able to provide best care, which is the next point of this. People will die because of this abortion ban. Women will die because of this abortion ban if we don't change it. We have already seen in the state of Florida women like Deborah Dover be forced to give birth to a child who died in her arms within 2 hours because she had a fatal fetal abnormality, but providers refused to give her care. We have seen women like Anya Cook who lost half of the blood in her body before she was offered an abortion, a medically necessary abortion, because providers were too worried about going to prison to offer her the high quality care that she needed. This will only continue to get worse in the state of Florida if we can't change this. So this is a little bit about our ballot. We can make these devastating impacts temporary if we can pass this initiative. And our initiative is incredibly simple. It says that no law shall prohibit, penalize, delay, or restrict abortion before viability or when necessary to protect the health of the patient as determined by a healthcare provider. The amendment we also carve out, it doesn't change the constitutional authority of parental notification. That has been in the Florida Constitution since 2006. And Florida is a single subject initiative, so we make it really clear that we're talking about our portion of the initiative and that we are trying to limit government interference in abortion. So just saying a little bit about how we got here, something that I always like to shout out. We collected over 250,000 of our petitions via volunteers. We validated 997,000 petitions when we only needed 891,000. We raised over $18.7 million with about 75 both in state and national press outlets. And then we qualified for the ballot, which is something that many folks thought we couldn't do with Florida's current Supreme Court. And in this phase, since April 1st, we have raised $26.1 million from donors and foundations. We have generated an additional over 5,000 press hits. We have grown our team from 3 staff to 21 staff with a focus on comms and organizing capacity. And we have completed over 5,000 volunteer shifts and already attempted to contact 50,000 folks for Super Saturdays and organizing events. Overall, from the research, we know that 60% of Floridians are on our side. The underlying attitudes are there for us to win this campaign. And support for abortion is the highest that we've seen it. So we know that 64% say that they want to have a right in their constitution to protect access to care. And this includes high support from independents and from registered Republicans. And then finally, this is an issue that is galvanizing for people. There's been a lot of conversations about mobilization and the need for mobilization in the state of Florida. 61% of our base voters say that they find this issue to be particularly motivating for them. And it's especially motivating for young voters, women of color, and for Democratic voters who stayed home in 2022. So just to note, this is an incredibly large campaign. I talked to you about the stakes that are at play here. This campaign will have the largest impact in reproductive rights ballot initiative history because of our high patient base and because of our incredibly large population. We have 28.1 million people in the state, numerous media markets, and we are the first state to try to pass an initiative for reproductive health care to 60% threshold. We also know we're going to have a well-funded opposition and our voter communication costs will be high. So while underlying attitudes are there in Florida, we have to do everything we can to secure the funds and the volunteer resources necessary to make sure that before election day, Floridians know what Yes on 4 does, which is end Florida's near total abortion ban with no real exemptions for rape or health of the woman, or vote no and maintain the status quo here in Florida, which is a dangerous and cruel abortion ban. And with that, I want to kick it over to Betsy Londono, who is a patient navigator at Planned Parenthood of Southeast and North Florida.
As they said, my name is Betsy Londono, and I've been a patient navigator with Planned Parenthood since 2022. Patient navigation was created as a way to help patients overcome the numerous barriers to access abortion care. While some people are fortunate enough to have the resources and the know-how to navigate the medical care system in the U.S., so many are not. And this is where we step in, to guide them through a process that should be straightforward, but instead is so complicated, confusing, daunting, and most of all, inequitable. So from the moment someone reaches out to us, whether it's in person, over the phone, online, we're committed to listening to them with empathy, providing accurate information, and connecting them with the comprehensive care that they deserve, whatever state that may be in. So we're here to provide guidance and support throughout every step of the process of them accessing care. This includes assisting with scheduling appointments in other states, explaining procedures, and finding financial assistance when it's needed. So our goal is to empower each person with the knowledge and the resources that they need necessary to make their own informed decisions about their health care and their future. So when I began my role as a patient navigator, Florida was a safe haven for our surrounding states, as you could see in the map previously. So all of our surrounding states had most or near or total bans. So we were consistently working with patients from neighboring states as far as Texas and our surrounding states to help them access care in Florida. all the while knowing that at any moment the Florida courts could rule in the favor of the 6-week ban of our own state. So as most people are aware, many women do not even realize that they're pregnant at 6 weeks, and this leaves them with very few options. So we spent months planning, coordinating our resources in order to assure that when the ban did go into effect, because we knew that it would, that we would be able to pivot quickly and help Floridians access care outside of the state, mainly in North Carolina and Virginia. So this consisted of creating networks and pathways with other Planned Parenthood affiliates, as well as the independent clinics. We're just helping people to get care wherever they can. And so because Florida is home to so many diverse communities and a large immigrant population, we had to spend also a considerable amount of time taking into account language barriers, cultural barriers, and even distance barriers. As you can see from the map, Florida can be a little bit like deceiving. I mean, if you're coming from Key West to get to North Carolina is almost 1,000 miles. So that's a very different situation than somebody in Northern Florida that maybe just needs to drive 4 or 5 hours. So we're always aware of, that every patient is going to have a different circumstance. So as a patient navigator, my role is so challenging and very humbling because every day I interact with women and their partners who are facing one of the most significant and personal decisions of their lives. So most patients that I work with are scared, they're confused, they have no idea where to turn from help, they've maybe just found out that they were pregnant. And it's really heartbreaking to tell a woman that is like 6 weeks and 1 day pregnant that she has to travel to another state, to take time off work, to find childcare and resources to access what really should just be a legal and available procedure. And just to give an example, we had a woman a few weeks ago who was under the 6-week limit. She was, I want to say, like 5 weeks, 3 days. So she had that very small window for her day 2 appointment because she did have to wait the 24 hours. She had a travel issue, she had a transportation barrier, she could not make it to her second appointment. And because of that, she missed her window, and then we had to help her get out of state. So just that's like an example of the challenges that women are facing. So while the decision is deeply complex and shaped by all their unique circumstances and beliefs and their personal values, at Planned Parenthood, we really do work to ensure that every person receives compassionate care, support, and mostly just the information that they need to make the right decision for them. So every reason for us is a valid reason. So, but beyond the logistics, I'm sure everybody knows that Planned Parenthood, our work is deeply rooted in empathy and respect for every individual's healthcare autonomy. We recognize that no two stories are alike. Each person that comes into the doors of the clinics, we know they have their own set of circumstances, their own reasons that are guiding their decisions. And our role as patient navigators is to support them, whatever their decision. We offer them non-judgmental counseling, emotional support, and sometimes just creating a safe space for them to express what they're going through and what their feelings are. Sometimes I really just spend a half an hour on the phone with a woman, just telling me her story from beginning to end because she just needs that space. Maybe she can't talk to her partner, she can't talk to her family, she just needs to get it out. And we do that as patient navigators as well. So in conclusion, everything that Lauren was saying, I just want to emphasize that abortion care is healthcare. It's a fundamental right that must be protected and respected. And at Planned Parenthood, we're committed to upholding this right and ensuring that it remains accessible to everyone who needs it. And we stand firm in our belief that every person deserves the ability to control their own bodies, their own futures, and their own destinies. So just to leave you with a parting thought that the work we do at Planned Parenthood is really more than just providing medical services. It's about compassion, respect, and empowerment. So thank you all for letting me share just a little bit of my day in the life of a patient navigator. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything that maybe you didn't understand or kind of want to put the pieces together because I know patient navigation is a new concept these days.
We have a bunch of questions coming up, but I have a question for you. In some states, if it's a medical emergency, they won't give a woman an abortion to help them. Is that the same in Florida now?
We just run into so many issues. Just a couple weeks ago, we did have a patient. I personally had an oncologist from University of Florida Medical Center call our helpline, just saying, "Listen, I have a patient who's 4 months pregnant. She just got diagnosed with a brain tumor. We need to start treatment. How do we even navigate this for her to get an abortion? How does this work?" Even the doctors are confused. So in that instance, we did just for sake of time, we sent her. She went out of state to have her care and then came back and started treatment. But yes, it is such a gray area. Providers are scared. So I mean, it's a mess.
Wow. Yeah. We got a lot of questions in the chat. How many navigators are there statewide?
So statewide, for Planned Parenthood, for our affiliate, we cover all of Northeast and Southern Florida. So imagine from Tallahassee all the way over to Jacksonville and then all the way down to the Lower Keys. We are a team of 3. And then Planned Parenthood of Southwest Florida, which does Orlando, Tampa, the other side of Florida, I believe there are 2. Statewide, I'm not sure because there's a lot of independent clinics and they have some of their own navigators or maybe they have positions in their clinics that also work as navigators. But at Planned Parenthood and our specific affiliate, we have 3. And we are working nonstop.
Wow, that sounds super stressful. There's another question. Oh yeah, what is the role of medical abortion in Florida? Is that even possible?
It's the same role as surgical abortion. So they're still required for the 6-week ban. So whether you're doing the medical or the surgical, it's still illegal under 6 weeks. So you still have to travel out of state. If you choose to do the medical abortion, you still have to travel out of state to do that.
Wow. That is really terrible. I'm glad we have this ballot initiative.
Yeah.
Nicole, do we have any more slides? Are you going to show more slides? Is that... All right.
So this is really thank you again, Betsy, for sharing your experience as a patient navigator. I think hearing that on the ground is so important and hearing from Lauren too about the campaign. If you want to stay connected to the campaign, you can find us on our website, yesforflorida.com, and stay connected through our socials, Yes for Florida, on all of the above.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. If you have a question, please type ** hand up in the chat. I put an example of it in the chat already. Scott, you had a question?
I had a question, and I also saw there was an earlier question asking about the age group that seems to be most affected does not seem to be as engaged as one would expect. So, Nicole, I don't know if that's a question you can answer. I know Lauren had to drop off, but perhaps someone could take that. And then I did have a question as well.
I can take that. I work alongside Lauren on the campaign. In terms of, yes, I mean, the 18 to we're seeing movement. We have seen in our research that folks that have not voted in 2022 or 2020 are more motivated to vote. And we see that particularly in the 18 to 40-year-old bracket as a motivating factor with this being on the ballot to come out and vote in 2024. We are now organizing on college campuses. We have a full-fledged organizing team statewide with a priority on the youth, mobilizing and organizing the youth vote. So we are right now onboarding a lot of our campus organizers that are doing work on all of our college campuses. We are starting to see, we see excitement around this issue and that group specifically. It's just getting them engaged and having them learn essentially some of them the voting process for the very first time.
Right.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a question, and I saw someone else in the chat had a similar question. I am reading in the news that there are issues and legal wranglings around what they're calling the financial impact statement for the amendment. And my question is, will that affect the vote in any way?
We are currently, so that happened on Monday. pull up. That happened on Monday. We went back through something called we were planning to call back into a fiscal economic impact committee, and we went through several days of testimony. To be very frank, political operative named Chris Spencer was very highly involved in crafting the new fiscal impact statement alongside the Heritage Foundation, which provided a lot of testimony. Post the 6-week ban, what we found is that it's very ambiguous. Like there is no determinant. We cannot determine the fiscal impact, but the statement that has been drafted by the FEEC is not what we would like. We are currently doing research to figure out what impact that would have to Florida voters, if any. Anecdotally, on other fiscal impact statement is always provided on every ballot for every amendment in Florida. This also happens in other states, so similarly in California. We believe that if we can raise the resources and communicate to voters so that they know what their decision is prior to getting to the ballot, they're not making that decision based on an ambiguous fiscal impact statement. We also have until August 27th when ballots are printed. So we are in conversation about what our legal challenges on the actual written new fiscal impact statement. But it's like political, it's very highly politicized, and it was very, very partisan. Even the folks that make up the committee said, that it's indeterminate. We cannot determine the fiscal impact. So we'll see.
Thanks, Bryce. Angela, I saw Eileen had her hand raised through Zoom, and I don't know about the others.
I've got a queue going.
Okay, great.
Laura, you had a question. You're next.
Yeah, thanks very much. I'm just following on with my question about medication abortion, because I was under the impression that women in states that didn't have legal abortion were getting medication mailed to them from out of state and managing their own abortions. But is that happening in Florida? And I understand that's illegal, I guess. But
it is illegal in Florida to receive medication in the mail.
I mean, is it happening anyway, or do you even know?
We can just say anecdotally what we've heard from patient providers, physicians, what they're seeing in both the emergency rooms and in clinics across the state is that people are doing some self-medicated abortions. It is, and they are showing up when things have gone wrong, right? So this is not a way that we should be operating. Some of these medications are not working, and that's we're starting to see and hear some horrific stories come out, both from presenting in the ERs and also presenting in clinics across the state.
Thank you. I was afraid of that. I just out of desperation, I'm thinking a lot of women might be doing that.
So is it illegal to receive medicine through the mail if it's abortion care or if it's just any medicine? Is that in Florida?
You mean like just regular medication?
Yeah, just regular medication.
Oh, no. I mean, but it is illegal to receive abortion medication through the mail in Florida.
Oh, wow. Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Diane.
No, I said Angela. I had the same question as Scott, so I put my hand down. Thank you.
All right, thanks. And then Alice, you had a question? If you're still here. Okay, then Eileen.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Well, my question was, in my speaking to my grandson's girlfriend, she's a Republican, and I tried to explain to her about the 6-week ban abortion. Is there any way that we can do either handing out leaflets or putting something in a newspaper explaining what it really means from the moment that they don't have their periods and the amount of weeks and days that they count, and that the time is limited, and that they should think about maybe voting yes instead of no, because maybe they don't understand. They might. We all know when we vote in ballots, a lot of the questions are very intricate, and sometimes you have to sit there and trying to visualize. Okay, what does this question really mean before I answer it? So, is there any way we can maybe not advertise it so much, but put it where when someone reads a magazine or a newspaper article that they can read this, or maybe on social media, so they understand. So whether you're a Democrat or Republican in the state of Florida, at least you know that you can vote for your candidate, but to still vote for this question.
Yeah, we have, since the 6-week abortion ban went into effect on May 1st here, there has been a large effort on the education piece, and my understanding is largely funded by a couple of different entities that are doing that educational piece. As the ballot initiative, we are not doing just 6-week abortion ban education. We're focused on getting the amendment passed, but folks like the Planned Parenthoods of Florida, the ACLU, League of Women Voters, has come together and has been working on and funding a large educational campaign around what the 6-week abortion ban looks like. And we're starting to see a lot of that messaging across our communities in Florida. And we assume that will continue.
Right. So on behalf of Democrat and Alice, that was a great question. And on behalf of Democrats abroad and our Florida voters, maybe we could pick up some of that information and we could put it on our DA website. We have a DA Florida page, and then let people know in the newsletter if they want more background on this issue that Alice raised in terms of this being nonpartisan and needs to benefit all women and families. You could share that with us.
Yeah, we'll try to get materials that you can share for sure.
Thank you.
And Carol, just to piggyback on that.
Next question. Yeah, let's get
okay.
Yeah. All right. Our next question is from Eileen. Go ahead. You're on mute, dear.
Hi, I'm a permanent resident of Brazil and have voted for the last 18 years in Florida. There's always a problem. The latest time they said they didn't have anybody with my name, even though I voted in the midterm and I have a registration card. It's Miami-Dade, and I always have to go through all kinds of hoops. One of the things that has happened is that because I said I didn't have any plans to come back, I'm very limited in the election as to whom I could vote for. So my question is, will someone who is not living in Florida be allowed to vote on this question, on this ballot issue, or will it only be limited to people in Florida? So I'm asking the question of Democrats abroad.
I do not have the answer to that question.
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Yes, you can absolutely vote. It will be on your ballot. If you're registered to vote in Florida, it will be on your ballot.
If they are only receiving a federal ballot? Because we know that Eileen, I believe, said is registered in Miami-Dade. Right. We know that Miami-Dade is one of the counties where if on the voters' FPCA form they say that their return is uncertain, they will only get a ballot for President of the United States and
That's
United
true.
States Senate.
And there's nothing.
And so I'm concerned that they will not see any of the amendments, particularly Amendment 4 that we're talking about here today. So Eileen,
think we'll
the
have
way
to
that I had seen this phrased is, can you find this much intent in your heart to say that you intend to return? Because you do not have to give a date, you do not have to have a specific plan to return. If that's something, and Henry, who was on earlier, I think had the same problem. If you say that you intend to return, and Carol, correct me if I'm wrong, but all the counties will provide a full ballot as opposed to just the federal ballot.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, that is correct. But Eileen, I think you do raise a point. We will have to research this more in terms of for our overseas voters who do check the box on the federal form that says they do not intend to return. So if you could get in touch with us, we'll follow up with that with the Florida Democratic Party and their lawyers.
Yes.
They sort of force you into that, and they give you like this address that isn't the last address you voted from. It's an address that they use for people who say that they don't have any immediate plans. It's kind of the way it's phrased. It even gives you sort of a time frame. I'm not sure.
Wait, are you using Vote from Abroad or FVAP to request your ballot, or are you using the Florida State page?
I was using the Florida one because they're the ones who say that they're the ones who every year I have problems proving that I'm a legal registered voter. So
okay, so you need to change what you're doing. I'm putting a link in the chat, and this is for everyone. Please do not go to the Florida voter pages. Go to votefromabroad.org, or you can also go to fvap.gov. But if you go there, you guarantee your federal rights to vote. There's a law that protects overseas voters where they can't do all these things to you. And ask, so just please go there, resubmit your request for an absentee ballot. And if you have problems, then please go back to the site. And there's or you can email voterhelp@votefromabroad.org. But one of the reasons why you're having problems is because of the way that you're asking for your ballot.
Not as an overseas voter.
Yeah.
Angela, is somebody staying on after that could help Eileen with this for the Zoom room?
I don't know. I think Ellie was here, but
not doing it. Kelly, are you here?
I can help.
yeah, okay.
Kelly,
All right.
so Eileen, Kelly, could you go in the chat box and explain to Eileen? She can hang on and talk to you after we finish.
Sure, no problem.
Eileen, if you can hang on. Kelly is an expert on voting from abroad, and she can help you work this through in terms of registering.
all right, I'm going to do it because I did just send in for the primary. But I always have to go through hoops. So
Yeah,
I should just vote through Democrats abroad. I just didn't want it to get there and then they say, oh, we don't have anybody by that name, because that's exactly what they were telling me. So
Yeah, but when you use the FPCA, the form that we use, it is a voter registration and an absentee ballot request all in one. So even if they don't have your name, they still have to give you a ballot. It's the
Yeah.
law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly. Kelly, I mean, we'll work this through. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question was from Kelly.
Okay, hi. All right, it's really actually another question more for Democrats abroad. I was doing some research for something else, and I see that there's 10,000-ish Florida voters living abroad. Only 11% of us have registered to vote or requested our FPCA. And I'm just putting it out to we don't have to have a discussion now because this is something, but we need to start thinking about what can we do to get this number up. Because
Yes.
we could be our vote could be the we could be the margin of victory.
Yeah,
Right.
we are, Kelly, we'll be having phone banking to Florida voters twice in September and again in October, post the primary. And we will be phoning every one of our Florida voters. We hope we can reach them all. I mean, we can reach them all. Some of it is leaving messages, of course. But yes, we will be having an outreach. And we will also be having more information on our website and emails to help people navigate voting in Florida over the next, not so much for the primary. We're not active for the primary, but we will be active for the general election starting in September. And please do sign up. Anybody wants to do phone banking, we need help to do that. So do go to the website if you can and sign up, get trained. And we'll be phone banking all the battleground states, and we are including Florida in that for this 2024 election.
Right.
Angela, hand back to you.
Yes, I just want to remind everybody to just go to votefromabroad.org. One of the biggest problems is that a lot of people that vote in Florida don't realize, even though we've tried to tell them for the past 2 years that they purged you out of the database, that they need to re-request a ballot. So if you know people that are overseas and vote in Florida, please remind them, because it's really important this year and every year that everyone vote, and you have to request a ballot in every election year. So let me go on to questions. Christine?
All right, I just would add one point. We did touch on the issue of intent to return. There are 67 counties in Florida. Some counties give everyone a full ballot, local, state, and federal elections. But as Eileen mentioned, some counties do not give the full ballot. If you say, tick the box that says you do not intend to return. On the federal form, there is no time limit. You're not being asked to say anything further. You just have the idea you might return to the States. You can feel quite comfortable in ticking that box. And I myself, after 45 years in England, did not intend to return to America, but with 2 children now living in California, surprise, surprise, we may go back. So please, look at what you're getting if you're voting in the primary. Hopefully you're getting your ballot. It should have come last week. And if you're not getting a full ballot for the local, state, and county elections, you're absolutely entitled to file a new voter registration form, and do hang around, and Kelly can tell you more about that. Okay, back to you, Angela.
All right. Okay, Christine, there you go. It's your turn.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. Well, I am a Florida voter that lives permanently in Paris. And just to answer that other question is every year it's jumping through hoops. And every year I'm never certain if they really got it and if my vote counted. And I think that's that many barriers, which I know there's other initiatives that are working on it to help make it a more fluid process, because I think that's what's keeping a lot of people away from voting. There's too much effort. So I'll get into my question, which is to go back to Betsy Londono. Thank you so much for talking about your experience as a patient navigator. Being in France and being in the first country that has written into the Constitution the right to abortion, access to abortion. So I feel very strongly, but I'm privileged now. I know my rights are safe where I live, and there's no need for a patient navigator where I am. So I did ask if there is ways to volunteer. Obviously, yes, for the ballot, it's super important, and I am interested. But looking more long term, these 30 years, if we have the time and the motivation, thinking outside the box, is there any way that us voters from abroad that have a connection to Florida, have a medical background or whatever, is there any way that we could have a more active role in some sort of patient navigating? Or because now with the internet, there's a lot that's more possible. Answering the phones, things like that. It's probably very specific, and there's not many people asking this. But I'd like to do more, and I have the time and I have the motivation. Thank
I
you.
mean, yeah, I always hate to be like, a Debbie Downer with this because it is, so specific and HIPAA rules and everything that we really can't do a lot of like, volunteer services. So just any support for, wherever your connections are in Florida, like to whatever abortion fund that, is maybe accepting volunteers or maybe can look out for that. Any, monetary donations, it can always be rest assured that it's going to, the right places. So I do wish that patient navigation was like a more like volunteer kind of friendly area. But again, just with like HIPAA and consent laws, there's just very little that we can like offer. I mean, I wish personally that we could have people, come to the center and offer to watch babies, if a woman needs to come and bring her kid, or drive somebody somewhere, but we're just not able to, provide that kind of service, unfortunately.
Alice.
Yes, I also live abroad in Switzerland, and I do come to the U.S. At least 2, maybe 3 times a year to visit my daughter and grandchildren. I found out about Democrats Abort through I read something on social media, and they had a link, and I tried it, and I missed opportunities for a couple of years until I saw this link, and it was actually a real link to where I can actually vote and be abroad and still vote for the state in Florida. So it could also mean that I know it was said that they could only reach right now 11%, but it could be some people don't even know about Democrats Abort. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
And the only thing that I can say also is when I like Angela said, I have to re-register every year since the change occurred, which I do. And I noticed that I can't vote in the local elections, but I can vote in the general election.
Yes, that is true. If you check, I don't intend to return, you'll get the president, the House of Representatives that's for your district, and also Senate.
But I don't check that box. I always check that I do intend to return.
Okay, then good for you. Thank you.
But I wasn't able to vote. What was it in 2022 in the local election? So there's some conflict there. I'm not sure what it is, but I always say I intend to return because my daughter wants me to return.
Yes, I understand. If you have questions or something weird like that happens, you can contact our voter help, and we also have voter protection. So if it gets too weird, we can bring out the lawyers and tell people in these counties like what's up, like what you have that they have to do something.
No problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, owner, can you talk now? Okay, well then we have another question from Scott.
It was a follow-up to one of the previous questions, and we're getting a little bit off topic here. So if anyone has questions about the abortion amendment while we still have our guests, please do chime in here. But for anyone who is having problems with their county registrar, I put a link in the chat to the Florida State page on Vote From Abroad, and I'll put it in again right now. If you scroll to the bottom of that page, it has the contact information for your county supervisor of elections. It also has a link to check your voter registration, and it has a link once you have sent your ballot in to verify that your ballot has been received. So if you are having problems, that's one place that you can immediately start checking. And then, as Angela has said, and I will echo, Vote From Abroad does have a help desk. I and Ellie Wallace are the couple of the people who answer the questions specifically about Florida. And we will try to help you. We have a group who, as Angela just said, will call the county supervisor of elections, because particularly in the small counties, they don't deal with a lot of voters who are living abroad, and they don't always, and the rules have changed recently. So, there is a lot of confusion around that.
Does anyone have any other questions for our guest?
Well, on behalf of everyone here, may I say thank you so much to Nicole, who was the great organizer, Elizabeth, Betsy, for joining us. And Betsy says her son's going to be studying in Scotland. So we'll look forward, DAUK will look forward to welcoming him.
This was so helpful just for that. I just was taking pictures and sending him all of that information because he just turned 18, and so he's going to need to do it.
And he's got to get his absentee register and get his absentee ballot.
He's got to, yes.
By email. He can do it by email, by the way. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thank you so much. And thank you to all our members who've joined, who will be supporting this effort, Nicole and Elizabeth, and we'll be back in touch as later in the year as we get closer to the actual election. So thank you all.
Yes,
and,
thank you so much for coming.
And thank you for coming. Those who want to stay on and talk about voting issues, please feel
stay.
So
thank you, Anne, for coming.
And Kelly, thank you for picking up on this. And Scott, I guess you're going to do this as well.
Thanks a lot.
I'll hang in. Angela, are we okay on running over on the Zoom room time?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, good.
No worries. No worries.
Okay, thank you guys.
All right. Yeah, it's really important that you use the form for overseas voters to request a ballot. And I think no matter how hard we try to tell people, for some reason, some people just don't get the message. I don't know why.
I
and
don't
they
think
have
they
problems.
realize it's a different form, Angela. You know, I mean, I think that may be it, that as overseas voters, we get different rights under the federal law. What do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah, it could be that they, yeah, people don't open our emails. People don't do a lot of things that definitely you need to do. But yeah, overseas voters actually have more rights than voters inside the country. So
Yeah,
make
we
sure
get them by email.
Yeah.
we get them
Yeah.
by email. They have to give us a ballot. There's no, yeah, it's we have a lot more rights and it's a lot more easy. So I'm actually gonna stop the live, and I'm gonna stop the recording also.
Right.
And